The Atlanta Hawks are warned against a Trae Young extension. We're going to talk about what that warning is and what it means for the Atlanta Hawks going forward. Also, Luka Doncic has been very involved in the recent moves by the Los Angeles Lakers, so much so that the Lakers' concern over a Luka Doncic extension has dissipated some. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And Ben Simmons has a number of suitors now for the former talented young player. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, There Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're going to start off talking about Bobby Marks. NBA insider Bobby Marks had a warning in regards to the Atlanta Hawks in signing Trey Young to a contract extension. Says this: I would approach it with an extension, but not at the 4 years for $22 million number here. I think that we are at a day and age of roster building where you have to be extremely careful when you hand out max contracts, where you are averaging out $55 million. The Trey Young is certainly an all-star level player. I'm not putting him up there in the top 15, maybe not even top 20 in the NBA. I want to see how this roster develops. Now, I understand what Bobby Marks is getting at here, right? And I do think you're seeing a world in which you have players making upwards of $40, $50 million regularly, and having that and how that really does shape your roster and what it looks like, right? And how much it could restrict you going forward. Now, I do think more so I've looked at it as if you have multiple players making like over 40, 45 million, that's where it can get a little difficult. You can get a little tight there if you haven't drafted well. You got to really figure out how many players you're going to have on rookie scale contracts and things like that to kind of get the most value of it, especially as more and more teams are looking and wanting and desiring to avoid that second tax apron, which I don't think anybody can blame a team for wanting to avoid that second tax apron. It's very restrictive, right? And so the Atlanta Hawks sit in a place where, you know, they may have to start looking at that, may have to start considering that, especially considering where their roster is. They made a trade for Kristaps Porzingis. It was a great move for them. They're definitely trying to make their move, I think, up the Eastern Conference and take advantage of the spot where the East is in. No harm, no foul in that one, right? But what Bobby Marks here is basically saying, let's have some caution. Let's not just give out these deals and contracts where it was prior, it was kind of a foregone conclusion sometimes. You had a player playing at a certain level and your team was there. You give them the extension. You sign them to the full years, whether it's 4 years, 5 years, and you keep it pushing. Now, with the amount of money that players are making regularly, you do have to be a little bit more, you have to have a little bit more consideration and forethought in when you do that. And that's where a GM like Sam Presti and the way that he kind of plans everything out he's 5, 6, 7 steps ahead of where everybody else is thinking in regards to roster construction and how things fall together and things like that. So, you know, that just is what it is. Sam Presti's been amazing when it comes down to that. And so, you know, not every team has been that good in that aspect of things. And, you know, it is what it is. You're still learning. Teams are still really learning how to bob and weave through that second tax apron. And it's going to be something that we're going to learn about for a while when it comes down to it. But I think in the Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young thing specifically, right, to talk about that specifically, I don't look at this as a team like that has a completely terrible financial situation. It can get a little tight there, especially as you have more and more players that you want to keep. But you look at like Asa Newell, of course, Reconsider, who's on rookie scale contracts, right? Dyson Daniels is on a decent contract. Like you don't have the amount of money where it's crazy money yet for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, when it gets to all these guys signing second contract extensions, that's probably where you're going to get there if you keep all of those guys. And, you know, but you want to try to get there. You want to be at a place where you have to make tough decisions because you have so many guys on your roster that you legitimately want to keep. That's the dream, right? So, you know, and they'll have to do that. But I think the Hawks have put themselves in a really good situation where they've built their roster around some of the shortcomings that Trae Young brings and has just by the nature of his stature and his defensive limitations and things like that. I think this just is what it is when it comes down to it. But I think overall, the Atlanta Hawks are probably going to be fine here. I don't think there's really too much to worry about, and we'll see how it shakes out. But you guys can let me know, as always, how you feel on that down below. Now, another team that we're going to talk about is the Los Angeles Lakers here, who over the weekend reached an agreement with Marcus Smart. My bad on not getting a breaking news episode out on that. I had some family stuff going on. But after his buyout, they reached an agreement with Marcus Smart. And now he's going to be joining that Los Angeles Lakers team, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's really good. I think it's a good signing for what they need as far as some defense. Don't know about how much he's going to bring offensively, and $11 million is not like it's some huge contract or guarantee or anything that they're giving or investment that they're making there. It's bringing in a veteran who's been bought out. It fits in with your timeline of a 2-year deal, which we know that they want to be players in the offseason of 2027. And that's good. But the thing that's come out about this that I think is a little bit more, right, when it comes down to it, is that Luka Doncic apparently has been very involved in these deals that the Los Angeles Lakers have made. When it comes to DeAndre Ayton, even Marcus Smart, even going on to LaRavia, reportedly that Luka Doncic has been not only communicating his desire for Rob Pelinka, but has been very involved in the targets that the Los Angeles Lakers have had this offseason, right? They did try to pair him with Mark Williams, but Luka Doncic, of course, was communicative on the DeAndre Ayton and things like that. And throughout this, the Lakers have been making smart moves. They had to waive Jordan Goodwin. They waived Shake Milton as well to make way to get Marcus Smart to make enough room to get Marcus Smart here. But throughout this, and being and talking with Luka Doncic, which we heard that Rob Pelinka had a meeting with Luka and his agent. He had the big binder and folder, things that they used to do with LeBron James, is that Luka has been very involved here. And while there had been some concern about getting that long-term commitment for Luka Doncic on his next contract, that reportedly that's starting to go away. That as much as Luka has been involved in things, as much as he's been communicating with this front office and the moves that they have been making, that the thought of him leaving or the concern about not signing that contract extension has dropped down. So now Luka is not eligible for a contract until August 2nd, which is honestly right around the corner, right? And there were reports that Luka could wait until after Eurobasket in September to make that decision. He's eligible for a 4-year, $229 million contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. If he decides to play out this season, he could then sign a 5-year, $296 million contract offer with the Los Angeles Lakers when it comes down to that. But his active role in the signings of Marcus Smart, DeAndre Ayton, going out and getting players, the fact that his team, his agency has worked with Rob Pelinka and collaborated throughout this whole free agency period on exactly what Luka wants and feels like he needs to this team. It feels like right now that Luka and the Lakers are really tied in. And because of that, the Lakers aren't as worried anymore about Luka not signing the contract extension, which it always was kind of going to be there. This does come from Mark Stein, who says that any doubts over Luka Doncic's long-term commitment to the Lakers has dissipated considerably. And that comes from Mark Stein. And so, shots out there. The Lakers made the trade for Luka. It was a completely unexpected trade. Nobody expected that to go down when it did. It's still one of the most shocking moments of me ever being a basketball fan is hearing that Luka Doncic was traded to the Lakers, right? And for what he was traded for. But now that through being collaborative this offseason and being hugely involved in what they've done and the moves that they've made, it's now made the Lakers feel a lot more comfortable on exactly what their future is going to be with Luka, which is what you want, right? You traded for your MVP caliber in the player in the prime of his career. Of course, you have things that you need to clear up on your roster, but they've been active this offseason. Started off a little slow, but then got very active this offseason with plans for 2026 and 27. And I have no doubt that meeting with that binder that we heard about probably included what those plans for 26 and 27 are, because you need Luka's buy-in on that, especially if you want to get him locked in to a contract extension, because you're going to need him here to attract those free agents. The allure of it just being the LA Lakers is not going to work if you don't have a star there. And so having Luka locked in will of course benefit what the Lakers are trying to do this upcoming offseason and getting more and more players to buy in with them and to come to their team as they are trying to build what they hope is going to be a championship contending roster around Luka Doncic. We'll see if they can do it. Overall, not mad at it. I think that, Luka's flexing the power that he does have here. And he had a lot of power in Dallas as well, apparently. So, he's going to want to have his say in that. He's going to want to make sure that he is in a situation. And, when we talk about the player empowerment movement, I do think it's changed a little bit to what it was before, where you had players really kind of controlling exactly everything that franchises did. I think that's now kind of flipped to where the players just realize that they have the ability to keep pressure on their franchises to continually make the right moves to keep them at a level of being in contention. And that's what Luka's doing here. But last topic of the day before we move on, Ben Simmons. We've talked about Ben Simmons and the interest in teams that he had reportedly from the Knicks Sorry, I keep getting it wrong. From the Kings, the Kings and the Celtics. But now it seems like the Suns and Knicks have also hopped in on this as well. This one also comes from Mark Stein, who says this. Ben Simmons remains an unrestricted free agent that could be drawing near an end, as Simmons has drawn interest from Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, Phoenix Suns, and the Sacramento Kings. Simmons finished last season with the Clippers following a buyout from the Brooklyn Nets. LA used Simmons as a playmaking big instead of an on-ball point guard he's had for most of his career. That allows Simmons to make use of his short roll passing skills while making his lack of jump shot less of an issue. Simmons remains a versatile defender. He's also a gifted passer and solid rebounder. Teams interested in Simmons are either looking for depth across multiple positions, as well as some having rosters in transition that are in need of affordable depth. So teams looking at Ben Simmons as an affordable depth. I think that he's a really good fit for the Kings. I don't know about the Knicks as much because I want the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands as much as possible. But you can make a case for that there as far as for the Knicks. For the Suns, he makes sense there. They need somebody who's going to ball handle. And, even if he ends up playing that as a ball handling forward, that would make more sense with them trying to play Jalen Green and Devin Booker together in a backcourt as well. The Celtics, I think the Celtics are just at a place where they're looking for any affordable talent to take a look at before they make their decision heading into, next offseason, where they're going to really try to gear up and reshape that roster with Jason Tatum coming back from injury. So all these teams make sense in different ways. I don't see it as much for the Knicks as the other teams, but hey, that's where you guys are sounding off for. That's where you guys can comment down below. Maybe I'm off my rocker when it comes to that. But between these teams that have reported interested in them, the one that I would like to see him go to the most is actually the Kings. I surprisingly like a lot of the Kings roster. I do think with the right coaching, with the right scheme and philosophies, with the right defensive, that they can be a fun team. Don't know how far they're going to go in the Western Conference, but I do think they could be a fun team. But I also see the fit with the Suns making sense for Ben Simmons too. They need somebody who can play make, who can operate and hold on to the ball to kind of make that team and that roster make a little bit more sense, since they don't have a legitimate point guard there. And so we'll see what team he ends up going to. Let me know down below. When you hear these teams that are interested in Ben Simmons, which one do you think makes the most sense? The Celtics, the Knicks, the Kings, or the Suns? Let me know that down below. That's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.